Why you should always collect Nintendo. If you're collecting video games, you should collect for Nintendo. Whether you're just starting a collection or adding a new console to your collection, Nintendo is always a safe bet. In the US, Nintendo has been into the home video games market since the Nintendo Entertainment System, since 1983, which is 40 years at this point. It is a longer consistent run than any other manufacturer on the market. And I say consistent because Atari has been making systems longer, but Atari doesn't carry the same weight as Nintendo. They had a gap there where they weren't really producing any kind of mainline system, and let's be real, the current one, the VCS, is not selling well. Doesn't hurt that Nintendo's always had Mario and Pokemon to make sure that it's a home name and always popular. And sure, Mario and Pokemon aren't the only names. You have Donkey Kong, Zelda, Kirby, more IPs than I really have time to go through. But why should you always have a Nintendo console in your collection? It's kind of a three-part thing. Part one is what we just talked about, exclusives. Pokemon has always been on the Nintendo console, except for Pokemon Go, but let's not talk about that one. And besides the Philips CD, Zelda has always lived on a Nintendo console. And again, something that a lot of Zelda fans would like to forget happened. And ever since Mario appeared on Donkey Kong, since then he's been on a, you guessed it, Nintendo console. I mean, even then Donkey Kong was in a Nintendo arcade cabinet, but you know. And there are so many unique characters and different gameplay mechanics that they've given to these characters, it's hard to ignore all of their IPs, all of their unique characters that makes Nintendo, Nintendo. Nintendo has decided to put their money into their IP development, and it really shows. It shows that they care about the storyline, they care about the character development, and they care about, just making good characters, making good things we can cling to, which is why Mario is still here 40 years later, and Pokemon is here over 25 years later, which is crazy to think about because that means I'm getting really old. I'm basically as old as Pokemon. And Nintendo isn't afraid to be weird and try new things with their IPs. Which brings me to part two of collecting Nintendo consoles, and that is the quirks. Nintendo almost always has weird quirks with their consoles, for better or worse. On the worst side is the Virtual Boy and the Wii U, and really the Virtual Boy is just technology ahead of its time. We just weren't ready for VR yet, which is essentially what they were going for back then. And the Wii U was really a predecessor to what we now have in the Switch. And look at the DS. The DS had a quirk that just sold. It made you want to go pick up a console. It had two screens. What other console had two screens? And I totally think that's the reason people like the whole flip out phones with dual screens on the inside now, because it's extra real estate. That's what dual screens was for Nintendo. It's extra real estate. Let's look at some of these systems. The Wii, the DS, the Wii U, the Switch. These are all underpowered consoles, but they focused on a quirk, and then they focused on the IPs, and then in the end, some of these panned out, some of them didn't, but let's be real here, Nintendo made a good amount of money on the DS and the Switch here. Like, they had quirks and underpowered, but they sold a lot. And that just proves you can invest money into your quirks and your IPs and still move further than the competition. And I think it shows in another way too. When I talk to people who video game, they're always like, I have a PC and a Switch. I have a PlayStation 5 and a Switch. I have an Xbox and a Switch. I have whatever else and a Switch. It's always and a Switch. They don't game on just one thing, and the Switch is always there because it's portable and it can be used at home. No other console is really matching that versatility except for the Steam Deck, and even then, it's still not my favorite. That thing is massive. And it doesn't have Nintendo IPs. Where else can you play Nintendo games unless you're gonna go download ROMs? And the demand of those quirks was insane. And remember, the Wii you couldn't find for ages. The Switch, you had trouble tracking down at times. They were in such high demand, even with the quirks, which brings me to part three, demand. The third reason you should collect Nintendo consoles is they're always in demand. Whether it's collectors, kids, parents, grandparents, somebody is always looking for a Nintendo console, it feels like. Because Nintendo has done a great job at making a console for all ages at several different points. And because of that, demand is always high on the collector's side as well, because Nintendo has done a good job of keeping people, giving them that nostalgia factor. So generally when you buy Nintendo, value increases year over year. Not saying that's the only reason you should buy Nintendo, but I just know personally that everything hit the fan and I needed cash, my Nintendo stuff would sell and I'd get the money I need to get out of whatever situation. It's backup savings to the savings. But again, that's like last resort option if I ever had to do that. And that demand of the nostalgia factor, I don't think is ever gonna go away. People grew up with this stuff since 1983 and we're now in 2023 when I'm filming this, and people still want those old original games. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And I will deliver a part 4 because I'm going to over deliver on that video, but before I do, hit that subscribe button because it definitely helps out the channel. And part 4 and why you should collect Nintendo is it's just fun. Every Nintendo console I've picked up is just flat out fun, and it works for all ages. Whether you're just starting and getting your first console, or whether you're like 50 and you want to just sit down and play. There's so many games that are just flat out accessible. You can just pick up and play Mario Kart, Super Mario Brothers, pick up and play Wii Sports. People who don't even like sports were playing Wii Sports because there were so many funky things you could do and it was just flat out fun. And that's what it is. Nintendo is fun. Collect fun. So how many Nintendo consoles do you have? How many do you collect for? And what's your favorite one? Let me know in the comments down below and we'll catch you next time.